Hello and welcome back to TVP World. My name is Alex Zielińska and these are World Talks, where every word matters. Now, the Oder River is one of the last free-flowing rivers in Europe. As a river left relatively untouched by major human interventions, this river maintains extensive floodplains and wetlands that are home to many species of animals and plants. Now, a recent EU report on the ecological disaster from 2022 that killed 360 tons of fish in that river found that industrial waste was a key factor, but also poor communication hampered responses, and that the incident should be a wake-up call for better river management. Joining us now to discuss this topic further is Urszula Zielińska, the Deputy Minister of Climate and Environment. Good morning and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning.
So now, can you tell our viewers more about this disaster that took place in 2022?
In the summer of 2022, round about beginning of August, suddenly a huge mass mortality of fish in the Odra River start occurring, starting from the south of the river, south of Poland, and then flowing down with the river into the sea. And in total, about 360 tons of dead fish were lifted off this river. Obviously not just fish, obviously also other organisms living in the waters. It took everyone by surprise. The government was not ready at all, not prepared to deal with such a disaster. The search for causes started and it transpired. We had a so-called golden algae, Prymnesium parvum, an algae that is actually living in salt waters, salty waters that suddenly appeared in a sweet water river in Poland, and it caused a huge disaster.
So now, do you think, is this something that could have been avoided, and now is something being done in order to avoid something like this from happening again?
It's not a coincidence that a saltwater algae appeared in a supposedly sweetwater river. Our rivers are extremely polluted by industrial sewage and industrial wastewaters, which are highly saline. And this was one of the main reasons, one of the main causes of the disaster. Another one was possibly that the rivers are extremely regulated. The example is the south, especially the south of the river Oder. And this was also established as a contributing factor to that disaster. Obviously other pollution, which we're dealing with, not just in Polish rivers, in other rivers in Europe and in the world, but we are, the state of our rivers really cries for help. And since then, the reasons and the causes were quite clear. We need to restore our rivers.
Mm-hmm. So now, can you tell us more about your press conference that you held on Wednesday and about this notification that has been sent to the public prosecutor's office?
Back in 2022, when the disaster happened, the Ministry of Climate and Environment back then promised to create a absolutely modern monitoring system that would tell us every single day what's happening with the water, what's the salinity levels, what's the temperature there, and whether we have any factors that could again lead to a repeat disaster. And we were meant to have about 25 of those monitoring points by the end of 2023. We were then meant to have 825 of those monitoring points by the end of this year. And unfortunately, when we, as a new ministers, came to the ministry in December 2023, there was none of that ready. We had 0 working monitoring points. We have filled to the brim retention systems that were meant to be emptied during the winter time to be ready for difficult summer months, and they were full of saline waters, no place to kind of hold the water to protect the river, and many other problems. So that was the reason, that was one of the reasons why we filed a claim to the prosecution office. This new monitoring system was created without solid legal basis, without solid legal grounds. A huge amount, $250,000 was planned to be spent on it, and it actually did not materialize. We had 0 monitoring points. So clearly something has gone majorly wrong, and we had to react to that.
So now, what's next for this, as I gather, very crucial monitoring system? What are the plans for it?
We have managed the crisis management team that is working together since the beginning of the year. We've managed to build 30 of those monitoring points, so they are now up and running, and you can see the levels of salinity, pH, and major, basically key factors that give us an indication on the state of the water. They are now working, but most importantly, we've also tackled the whole root cause of the problem. That's the how saline the waters are, and we have commitment from major industry companies who use river to Oder River to dump their waste. We have their commitment to help and clean this up, and by end of this year we'll have a holistic plan of investment that needs to be built on the river Oder that will help desalinize the waters and clean it up.
Mm-hmm. Now, this being a man-caused disaster, I wanted now ask to have a look at, well, natural disasters that scientists, of course, are saying that happen because of climate change. Now, what about when it comes to climate change? What are the most pressing problems that are affecting also Polish cities, but also natural habitats?
Climate change was definitely part of the problem that influenced also the Oder disaster. No doubt of that. Month after month, we're seeing record high temperatures. Again, May and June in Poland were the hottest on record. And it's very clear we're well above 1 degree above the long-term average temperature every single month. In some of those months, we've reached +2 degrees on the long-term average temperature. So the climate change is there. The climate risks are absolutely there and materializing in front of us, and we have to act, and we have to do it quickly. So what we're working on right now is to help cities and smaller towns to prepare climate change adaptation plans so that they are ready locally, depending on their local circumstances, to build resilience from flooding, from droughts, from sudden weather events that suddenly destroy all our infrastructure. We don't have these plans in many Polish cities yet, and we need to establish them. And literally week in, week out, we're seeing some weather events happening all over Poland, and we need to act on that. So the work is in progress, both in terms of legal work, but also in terms of funding. There is a lot of European funding flowing right as we speak into local communities to just build resilience, prepare those local climate adaptation plans, and also, and that's a good thing, really local communities are they're really seeing the need to do it. So without even waiting for legislation, they have already started, and we have 168 cities and towns currently which either already have a local climate change adaptation plan or are in the process of preparing it and building it. And we're there as a climate and environment ministers to help and to support. And I'm also prepared to go everywhere to the local communities to help them prepare.
So now, can you give us some examples? What do these local adaptation plans look like? I mean, what changes or maybe what things should be done in cities to ensure, I mean, just like you said, those temperatures, we all felt them recently, to make life easier for the residents of these cities?
It's starting from really simple things like green surface in the city. We really don't need concrete everywhere. Actually, it appears the less concrete we have in cities, the healthier and better for us. It's cooler, green areas, just trees are like sponges. They absorb water and preserve it for us. So promoting green surfaces, not cutting old trees, trying to build infrastructure around them. There are ways for it, but also building water retention systems. That's very important. We are seeing huge areas of Poland really endangered by drought. There is actually, as we speak, a lot of talk about this in Polish media right now. We also need to just strengthen infrastructure, bridges, flooding systems in cities to make sure we are prepared for flooding, because that's the typical, how typically the weather looks right now. We either have a huge amount of so-called flash flooding hitting our town and city, and literally next week we might have a drought and a prolonged 3 weeks, hot temperatures, lack of water, animals, birds dying, and we need to prepare for this. So this is how the climate is changing. We need to prepare for this. Prevention is one thing, cutting emissions is one thing, but actually adaptation, when it's actually already happening, is extremely important right now as well.
Right. So now, what are you seeing? How are people reacting to these adaptations that are being put in place, that are taking place in their cities?
I'm actually pleased to see that people see the need, just because I don't think we've ever had so many weather warnings as we've had in literally just the last few years. And almost every summer comes with some significant weather events. Recently, in the central middle of Warsaw, I've never seen so many fallen trees, so many fallen objects after just one night of a huge extreme weather event. So people are really starting to see how dangerous it is, how much it costs. We have reports saying extreme weather events, fires, droughts and flooding cost us on average 6 billion zloty a year. And in recent years, this loss can even amount to 12 billion zloty. That's a huge amount of loss just due to 3 typical weather events that we're seeing due to climate change. And really people are seeing it, therefore are supportive of building those adaptation plans in their own hometowns. And why would they not? Especially as European Union is supporting us with an influx of investment ready just for this.
Right. I mean, those numbers of the damages that you mentioned, they really are staggering. Now, is there anything that you would, like to tell local community leaders about the need for these adaptation plans, very briefly?
Very briefly, it's absolutely, utterly important to have a local city-town climate adaptation plan. We dare, as climate ministers, to help with our teams, to support them, to literally do it hand in hand together. There is currently above 11 billion zloty in funding ready to invest into those infrastructure changes, into green surfaces, into blue water retention, and we are there to help. So just please do it if you haven't done so yet. If you haven't started, just give us a call and we can do it together.
All right. Well, that sounds like a great way to wrap up this conversation. Urszula Zielińska, the Deputy Minister of Climate and Environment, thank you very much for speaking to us here on TV.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And that's a wrap for this edition of The World Talks, but do stay tuned to TVP World for more breaking news and interviews like this. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.